With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, it's my classroom, you're just learning in it. And preppy polos that say, I'm the teacher's pet, even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold! Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
How many discounts does USAA Auto Insurance offer? Too many to say here. Multi-vehicle discount, safe driver discount, new vehicle discount, storage discount, legacy.
How many discounts will you stack up? Visit USAA.com/auto discounts. Restrictions apply.
Encore une fois.
This is the inside story of Paris 2024. 1 year on, one more time.
Before Simone even announced she was coming back, we were planning it for 2 years.
She's huge. If you think Olympics, you think Simone.
He goes through 21, 2 more gates to go, and Joe Clark is there, 22 and 23, safely negotiated, no penalty scores. He wags his finger at the crowds here, lots of Union flags in evidence. Joe Clark goes to the top of the rankings. This is Encore, Fois, the inside Paris story from Anything But Footy. 1 year on, one more time. What we are doing in this short series is just looking back on where we were, what we were doing, who we met, how we did it 12 months on from the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. If you haven't heard any of the previous episodes, you'll know perhaps, if you're a regular listener to the podcast, that John and I were in Paris working for official Olympic broadcasters Talk Sport. And it's Thursday, the 1st of August, 2024. And I started my day back in the leafy environ by the Bois de Boulogne of Team GB House. And I went there to catch up with some of the rowers that you'd spoken to the previous day.
The gold medal winners, yeah.
Yeah, including Georgie Brayshaw and Lauren Henry. Copying your questions to them because I thought they were so good. And I also went to see Lois Tolson, who'd won a bronze alongside Andrea Spendolini-Syriacs in the diving the previous day as well. And it was just nice to catch up with Lois, who I'd known and been interviewing for years and years and years. And, you know, she's got a number of medals at Commonwealth, European, world level, but something special, I think, about having that Olympic bronze medal as well. And it was just sort of nice just to go along and be able to congratulate her in person, really.
My selfie search continued. I had a selfie with Frege at the rowing, the mascot. It was one of the highlights. And it was to be fair, it was perfect because it was a bright sunny day again. I think there've been thunderstorms in the morning because I think the race walk had been slightly delayed that morning. The first athletics event, the athletics was going to start the next day at the Stade de France, but the race walk was taking place and it had been delayed because there's been thunderstorms, which as you keep listening, you'll find out were a theme in that day. But it was actually absolutely boiling by the time I got to the rowing, but it was wet, so it was wet on the ground. But the sun was shining and it felt quite mild and muggy. And Frege walked past me and I was like, I've got to get a selfie for me and Michael. So I did that. But there
sent it to me straight away on WhatsApp.
I was like,
I then deleted you as a contact, as I do anyone that engages with mascots.
And then at the rowing, I think I went there expecting gold medals, and we came away with 2 bronze and a silver, which was a great achievement for Becky Wilde and Matilda Hodgkins-Byrne in the women's double sculls, because they weren't expected to win a medal, and they came with a brilliant 3rd place at the start of the day, and you thought, wow, there's more to come. And then the women's 4, who of course were European champions, unbeaten in the previous year as well, of Helen Glover, Esme Booth, Rebecca Shorten and Sam Redgrave, no relation. They finished in silver medal, and it was the reverse of what had happened with the women's quads. golds, where the Netherlands pipped them on the line, and Helen Glover won her silver, the first silver for her, after a fourth in Tokyo and 2 golds. And so that was a really difficult interview to do afterwards, because for 3/4 of the crew, they were delighted. I'm not sure Helen was, but she answered my questions, and she was the professional as she always is. And then the men's for the world champions, again, expected them maybe to get a better than a bronze, but they got their 3rd spot, and they were the medals that we were celebrating from a rowing point of view.
Let's have a listen to the first minute or so of the Helen Glover interview that you did, because I'll set it up, because I remember listening to it live as it happened. And you were like, Helen Glover. And she was like, hey. And it was all very happy and smiley. And you asked her how she felt. And she was like, oh, we gave it our best race. We'll hear this all in a minute. She went, we got from A to B, down the track, great race. And then you said, yeah, but you've been unbeaten coming into this Olympics. And have a listen to the moment where you can just tell that Helen Glover's mood slightly changes.
Helen Glover, how are you feeling?
Yeah, good. I mean, we put together a race that I think we should be proud of, because it's kind of what we planned to do, A to B down the track. We wanted to give it all today, and came out with the good silver, I think. So, you can't, if we had mucked up or done something wrong, I think we'd probably kick ourselves, but actually we had a good race. So,
first defeat of 2024.
Yeah, but do you know what? Of course, we expect everyone to bring their A game. When we kind of reached the big event, everyone was going really well. So I think we should be proud of where we kind of came out when we had the final race.
So that was John talking to Helen Glover, and I think, as I said in the setup, you can just tell that moment where she was happy with the silver, and I'm sure a year on she'll look back and go, wow, a silver medal at a 4th Olympic Games, my 3rd Olympic medal. But then there was, as you asked that second question to her about having been unbeaten, you could tell that she was upset. She was disappointed that she hadn't won another gold. As you say, totally professional in what she said and what she did and how she acted.
And it's really hard. And we found this, and I know you'll talk about this as when you covered the athletics in more detail over the next week or so of the Olympics, that when they've just come off the rowing lake and you're asking them questions, it's raw. But if I hadn't asked that question, I think as a journalist, it would have been, if not, I felt like I was just applauding and being happy clappy. Well, actually, silver was great for the crew, and she'd said that. But from her own personal point of view, she would have been slightly, I thought, but I didn't want to put my opinion on it. I wanted her opinion on it. And that was the thing that you're trying to get from an interview is, and I really believe this, that it shouldn't be your opinion that you're driving. You should want to know what the answers are. And so she answered it. And yeah, I could tell she was annoyed that I'd asked her the question, which is why then the follow-up question, which we didn't hear, but the follow-up question, I kind of sort of said, well, I changed it and was more positive again. And that's because I don't want her to go away going, well, he's a bloody idiot. But I also have to ask the right questions. And it was a result that we weren't really expecting. Yeah, as you said a few episodes ago, you spoke to her, she was the flag bearer. I think everyone expected her to get a gold medal, and unfortunately, it was just one of those days, and that's the beauty of sport, where it just didn't quite happen. And we've talked about it already. From a Team GB point of view, converting those silvers to golds was the hardest thing that they found during the Paris Olympics.
And I so enjoyed all your coverage from the rowing and canoeing that I had to get a piece of the action myself, actually. I was like, because I knew the regatta was coming to an end. We were into finals. We only had Friday and Saturday to go. And, I've got a lot of good friends and colleagues, people that work at British Rowing. So I knew I wanted to get across there at some point. And again, with British Canoeing, Paddle UK, wanted to get over there. So I actually went over and sort of relieved you of the canoeing interview duties. Joe Clark was in action. Really interesting story with Joe, because he'd obviously won a gold as a young canoeist, a young paddler, unexpected gold in Rio. And then because of the way that there are so limited places for British paddlers, he hadn't been selected for Tokyo. And by the time the games actually came around, delayed by 12 months, he was the number one, best in the world. But because the decision had been made for 2020, he didn't get to go to defend his title. So he was back looking to try and defend that title. And I was there and was on commentary for it. So borrowing the commentary intel and knowledge that you'd been doing for the previous days. And he was, he was last to go in his run in the final. And he made a little bit of a mistake in it and ended up finishing fifth. And, if you rewind back to the paddlers, the slalom canoeists came into TalkSport. The team was revealed live and exclusively on TalkSport in the building. We'd known Joe since Rio 2016. I've spoken before about queuing for a taxi with him after a Team GB ball late in 2016, which was quite the riotous night. So we got to know Joe a little bit. And I think a lot of us thought he would win a medal, win that gold medal. And to finish fifth, as he said, it wasn't what he came for. He was disappointed in it, but he did have the cross to come, the canoe slalom cross, which was going to be a mentally weird event still to come. So he did have that second opportunity.
Absolutely. And the reason why, apart from you wanted to go to the venue and see it, is that I was going to have 24 hours off, a rarity in Olympic history. But my wife and son were coming out for the games, and actually it just came right at the right moment. We talked about the last episode. I was literally on my knees. We'd been in Paris for just over a week, and it just gave me a real boost that I could just spend a few hours not looking at my phone, not looking at results, and working out what was going on when I wasn't there and being across everything. And it was down to you, Michael, because ultimately TalkSport said, if Michael's okay with this, then we're okay with you doing it. So I will forever be grateful that you allowed me to have that moment, because we went to see handball that night, which was fantastic and an amazing sport. I think Germany we watched and Denmark, who are world champions. And we had pictures in the Olympic rings. We found the Olympic rings because we were down in the Paris arena, the South Paris arena, where the rings were. So I had my photos taken from there. It was just a great kind of couple of hours that I needed, and then we were going to go to athletics the following day. But what was also great was I was in an amazing hotel, which was literally 3 or 4 doors up from where the USA basketball team was staying. And again, being in Central Palace, we're in Paris, we were in Boulevard Haussmann. And if you've seen the Netflix documentary of the basketball from Paris 2024, then there were crowds outside that hotel day and night. And I was like, what is going on? When I met Carrie and Matthew, and they were like, oh yeah, it's just, basketball. I was like, LeBron is there. That's where LeBron James is staying. So Matthew was suddenly really excited as well. We didn't get to see him, but it was just, it felt like a different, it kind of revitalized me. And there was I'll always remember that night, which you're going to come to in a moment. I didn't know anything about this because I'd literally switched off, but I was still doing the previews for TalkSport, and that was fine. So I sat there on the balcony overlooking the city of Paris at 10 o'clock at night. Matthew was asleep in the room inside, and I recorded my piece for the next day with the basketball crowd just a few meters down, and it was a great way to kind of finish the first week of the games from my point of view, and kind of go, right, let's go again.
Yeah, I know I was heading into the day after athletics mode, so I knew that my running around, which I'd been doing in the first week, was going to settle down a little bit, because my main focus was going to be track and field every night. So this was kind of like my last day, I think, where I had the opportunity to go out and try and see a lot of different things. So I remember heading back from the canoe slalom, and I think it was the women's all-around gymnastics final, the Bercy Arena. My hotel was right next door to the Bercy Arena. So I remember getting off the metro thinking, Simone Biles is in there now, with Andrade of Brazil and Sunisa Lee of the US as well. But Simone Biles is in there now. And I remember thinking, I should just try and get in and see a little bit. of Simone Biles, and so you just couldn't get a seat. All the Hollywood was there. It was absolutely phenomenal. So I went in and I went and stood in the interview zone, and Simone obviously won the gold medal, came through. I was like, Simone, chat for UK radio, beckoning her over. She waved and smiled, but she didn't come over. She just carried on walking. But I was in her presence.
Exactly.
And
I saw LeBron. I was staying 2 doors up from LeBron.
And I said she gave me a lovely smile and a lovely wave, but not a lovely interview. But I did get some lovely interviews, because obviously afterwards, where we were in Bercy, there was this lovely little strip of bars and restaurants, and obviously the arena was there, and obviously all the American fans were pouring out of the Bercy arena into the bars and the restaurants. So I just went over and I had a chat with a few and recorded some nice little interviews with some of the fans. Some of them had planned this trip forever. Some had just struck lucky getting their tickets. I spoke to an American who lived in Paris, who just in the ballot got that night, that session of sport, and he got to see Simone Biles. So lovely sort of time catching up. Thought headed back for what was meant to be an early night back to the hotel, and this massive thunderstorm. I don't know whether you saw it from your balcony, but there was a massive thunderstorm in Paris that night, wasn't there?
Yeah, as I say, I think it was when I was at the handball. And frankly, the South Arena was rocking so much because of handball. I didn't actually know anything was going on until after I came out and heard, spoke to you afterwards. But yeah, it as I said, it was one of those days. It was really close all day, and we'd had those thunderstorms that I mentioned in the morning.
Very British of us to keep talking about the weather on this podcast. But the reason I brought it up and I mentioned it is because I got back to my hotel and I was sat in my hotel bar. And I had a pint. I probably had ordered some nachos or something. I remember sitting down thinking, relatively early night. I remember thinking I still had some things I had to do from a work point of view in terms of the planning for the next day. And
athletics started the next day for you. Yeah.
Athletics started the next day. I knew I was going to go to the rowing the next morning, because you obviously were having the time with your wife and son, so I knew that I had a bit of rowing to do, and I had obviously just some general duties, just planning everybody else so everyone knew what was happening on the Friday, because it was kind of a role that I ended up doing, which I'm not really sure how. The idea was, I think we were going to do all the planning, and then when we got there, we'd start broadcasting, but I carried on with the planning. So I was just sat there with my spreadsheets. I was quite happy to do it, having my beer and my nachos, and then I got this call, and they were like, Natalie Sawyer, who was presenting every evening, and a guest, which I think was either Jazz Carlin or Alex Danson Bennett. They've had to be evacuated from the studio, which was on this roof of the Hotel Raphael, because of the thunderstorm. We're into an ad break. We're going to come back. You need to present the last half hour of the show. We'll get John Anderson, who was the swimming commentator. We'll get John to join you from the swimming. Where he's been, he can reflect on that with you. But yeah, the two of you have got to take it through. We can't get sports bar ready for another half an hour. And so someone said to me, are you able to talk about the Olympics for around about 30 minutes? I thought, it's the job I was born to do. And if you're a regular listener to this podcast, you'll know that's very much within my comfort zone. And so
I'd predicted this, hadn't I?
Yeah, you said to me months before the Olympics, you went, at some point, you'll end up, amongst other things, presenting on Talk Sport from the Olympic Games. And for 30 minutes with John Anderson, I presented the show. But
there you go.
We were quite relieved, I think, at the end when they went, sports bars ready. We found whoever it was, Jamie O'Hara, and you can hand over to them now.
I'm sure you did an excellent job. I can't say I went back and listened to it, but I probably should have done. But
I put it on LinkedIn within about 20 seconds. Talk Sports commentator, reporter, producer, presenter.
Exactly.
was added.
Just to finish this episode, we think as well, because neither of us can actually remember this, but I've got it written down somewhere, that Andy Murray actually retired this day as well. Andy Murray and Dan Evans, we've talked about them in the last few episodes. They lost to the American pair of Paul and Fritz 6-2, 6-4 in the quarterfinals of the men's doubles at Paris 2024. So the retirement of a legend. So we saw the birth of Michael's presenting career on TalkSport, but the retirement of a legend in Sir Andy Murray and his tennis career was coming to an end. And so will this episode. Day 6, we started. Great Britain were 5th in the medal table, and the USA were actually 7th in the medal table by this point. They had a really slow first few days of the Olympics in Paris 2024, but as Michael mentioned, Simone Biles won gold and the all-round. And from this point on, as we'll see, the USA really continued to move and further up and up the table, and actually Great Britain kind of began to move slightly down the table, which we'll come to.
The Americans had a poor swim meet, which is interesting because obviously they're switching the schedule around for LA. So the athletics is going to go first and the swimming second, which obviously they've done because they think that swimming is going to be the big thing. And actually in America, swimming rates higher on the telly than the track and field does. They did have a brilliant track and field program, and more to come about that as we continue the story 1 year on, one more time. Encore and Fois, the inside Paris story from Anything But Footy.
Encore une fois, Paris 2024, one more time.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, it's Nicole Byer here with some hot takes from Wayfair. A cozy corduroy sectional from Wayfair? Yeah, that's a hot take. Go on and add it to your cart and take it. A pink glam nightstand from Wayfair? Scalding hot take. Take it before I do. A mid-century modern cabinet from Wayfair that doubles as a wine bar? Do I have to say it? It's a hot take. Get it at wayfair.com and enjoy that free shipping too.
Wayfair, every style, every home.